and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. At the Bloomington City Council meeting on March 29th, Director of Economic and Sustainable Development Alex Crowley, Bicycle and Pedestrian Coordinator Hank Duncan, and Indiana University Vice Provost for External Relations Kirk White gave a report on scooters and micromobility options. Crowley gave an overview of the debate within the community over the use of scooters.
Let me begin by re-emphasizing that we are primarily concerned with two key issues: rider and pedestrian safety and parking and pedestrian accessibility in the public right-of-way. Shared use micromobility has clearly become a contentious issue across the country and here in Bloomington, having had the unfortunate effect since initial deployments of separating our constituents into two distinct camps. On the one hand is a vocal and persistent group of residents and stakeholders who've clearly expressed their discontent with shared use micromobility. And we've all heard that discontent loud and clear and recognize the issues they've raised regarding challenges we see in the community. On the other hand is a relatively more silent but significant user base, often younger and skewing to the university student population, who relies on shared use micromobility as a means of transportation. We also recognize their interest as manifested in part in the significant ridership data we track. Our goal is to help the community navigate through these competing perspectives as we propose revisions to the scooter regulations this evening. And we recognize that with any proposed compromise, neither side will be entirely satisfied.
Crowley explained that although there is a demand for the micromobility options, they have to consider the dangers that accompany their use.
So we currently find ourselves in a complicated situation. While hundreds of thousands of annual micromobility rides suggest that these devices are an integral part of the transportation landscape in Bloomington, especially among the younger demographic in our town, we need to recognize this comes with a heavy cost. Data, while incomplete, suggests that there continue to be injuries, both to riders and pedestrians, as a result of the use of micromobility devices across the community. Additionally, there have been two devastating fatalities in Bloomington involving scooters, both in the fall of 2022. One was the death of an 18-year-old IU freshman who died on August 18th from injuries sustained while riding and crashing a scooter in the late night hours. Another fatality, though not directly related to scooter use, occurred only a month later on September 18th, when a 20-year-old IU junior died after being hit by a suspected drunk driver while he rode a scooter on a sidewalk. These two deaths are important to recognize, and we're deeply affected by them. As a father of similarly aged students myself, I cannot imagine the sadness and loss borne by the families and friends of these students as a result of these tragedies. In addition, ongoing parking challenges continue to plague the community, causing issues with accessibility in the public right-of-way, and more broadly, a general sense that scooters are negatively impacting the aesthetics of the community. While certainly not rising to the severity of the fatalities and injuries, they impact many residents, and in particular those depending upon accessibility in the right-of-way.
Duncan shared the Planning and Transportation Department's recommendations for improving rider and pedestrian safety and accessibility. The first suggestion was to have riders take semi-annual pre-ride safety quizzes.
Digging into pre-ride educational quizzes. This is something that some operators already do in other cities. It seems like low-hanging fruit that we can deploy in Bloomington without much trouble at all. These quizzes would be completely run by the operator, setting them up, deciding which questions to ask the riders. That would be in collaboration with city staff and administration. But it would detail rules of the road, safe riding habits, appropriate parking locations, things that all riders should know before they hop on these vehicles. Right now, we're thinking about making these riders answer these quizzes semi-annually, so 2 times per year. Just give them a refresher of what the rules of the road are and how to ride these vehicles safely.
The second suggestion was to adjust the hours of operation for the stand-up scooters, sit-down scooters, and e-bikes.
Adjusting out the hours of operation. This was a main topic of conversation between all the stakeholders involved, and what you see here is that compromise, that happy medium ground that seems to appease all members involved. So starting with stand-up scooters, and these hours of operation revolve around daylight. So the concern right now is about the after-hours riding, nighttime riding. That's one reason why we have this current 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew in place right now. So what we came to is that from April through October, during the time with more evening sunlight, keeping the curfew as is, 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. But in those winter hours, when we have an earlier sunset, pushing up that curfew to 8 p.m. So all stand-up scooters from any operator in the city will shut down from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. during those times.
White shared IU's efforts to improve multimodal alternatives and to ensure student and faculty safety. He also shared his support for the suggestions Duncan presented.
We've done several things at the campus to help with that. You're well aware of a lot of that from our support and partnership with Bloomington Transit, providing electric charging stations at our parking garages, incentives for carpooling, and this type of thing. We want to make these multimodal things available as a good campus and community partner. We believe that as we look at these recommendations, we believe that the restricting of hours during low visibility is exactly where we need to be. From our perspective, restricting the use of scooters dusk to dawn would be even better. But this improvement that has been recommended, well, some implemented, the 11 o'clock p.m. to 5 a.m., and then the new recommendations from November to March from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. during times of less visibility, darker periods of time, according to the sun, that would be better too, because we see that, as has been outlined, these accidents that occur, particularly at intersections, are a lot of times because of reduced visibility. So the incentives as well for sit-down e-bikes is another really good thing. To provide those kind of incentives for the companies to provide a safer alternative. We think that if you look at the physics of the whole thing, falling forward on a scooter is a lot easier to do than falling forward and injuring yourself on a sit-down bike. It's just the center of gravity. So those incentives are a really good direction ahead as well. We're also supporting the ability to do these geographic restrictions. Geofencing is noted, particularly in our athletic complex during high-impact events, particularly, but really all the time because of the bus circulation that we have and the parking circulation that we have during normal business hours in the athletic complex. But then during athletic events, we have lots of different traffic direction going on, and geofencing, the restrictions in that area, is a good direction ahead as well.
The next Bloomington City Council meeting will be held on April 4th. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
Do you know that thousands of children go without school supplies every day? Teachers Warehouse is a 100% volunteer-powered organization. We service the educational and creative needs of students in Monroe, Brown, Greene, Lawrence, and Owen counties by distributing school supplies free to the teachers. Teachers Warehouse is composed of 7 rooms filled with books, pencils, paper, and even tools to motivate students. If it's in a classroom, we'll supply it. To donate new or gently used school supplies or volunteer, give us a call at 812-929-7522 or email us at contact@teacherswarehouse.net.
Welcome back to CATSweek. On March 29th at the Monroe County Commissioners meeting, Director of the Health Department, Lori Kelly, gave an update on COVID levels and informed the commissioners about Candida auris, a fungus they're watching out for.
According to the Indiana Department of Health, COVID cases and transmission levels are noted as low across the state. Statewide wastewater COVID concentrations are still noted as decreasing on the Indiana COVID-19 wastewater dashboard. And the department is currently monitoring an emerging fungus, Candida auris, that is spreading in U.S. healthcare facilities. This is now a reportable disease, and beginning April 1st, reporting in Indiana will become mandatory. In general, this is not a threat in healthy individuals. Those who are very sick or have long stays in healthcare facilities are at an increased risk.
Commissioner Penny Giffens asked what the symptoms are. Kelly responded,
"What are the symptoms of that condition?"
Sure. So the most common symptoms are fever and chills. It can be difficult to know if a patient has this infection, and a laboratory test is needed to diagnose.
Next, Kelly asked the commissioners to approve changes to health services fees. Kelly shared that the Board of Health approved the changes at their meeting on August 25, 2022. Commissioner Julie Thomas suggested that they decrease the cost of food inspections and the number of times per year that a vendor would have to be inspected.
But I'm going to make another recommendation and ask my colleagues what you think about this, because I feel like getting fresh food from our community growers and producers and small artisan manufacturers to our local community is so important that I think this is something that we should subsidize a bit. And so I'm going to make two parts to one motion.
Should we take care of the other amendment first?
No, we could just have one vote on all the amendments
Okay.
if you want,
Okay.
if that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a motion that would amend under seasonal establishments to an annual term instead of 9 months. And then I would move that we change the amount to $100 for up to 3 markets and $200 for 4 to 6 markets.
Thomas explained that the burden of paying for the inspections should not just fall on the shoulders of the food growers in Monroe County, and suggested that the fees be subsidized.
Clearly, yes, this is going to require a little bit of subsidy from county taxpayers, but I think it's well worth it, and I think a lot of our growers and producers are living on the margin, and I don't think I think having a different inspection fee would make more sense for them, especially if they're appearing at multiple markets.
Commissioner Penny Giffens recapped the changes to the revisions to the health service fees.
We have the amendment to maintain septic inspections for right now, still at $100. We have an amendment to change the licensing charge for seasonal markets so that it would be $100 to cover from 1 to 3 different markets and $200 to cover between 4 and 6 markets, and this will be referred to as a license to participate in seasonal markets. Mm-hmm. Does that cover everything?
And annual, and it would be annual.
An annual license. Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you.
The board approved the revised revisions unanimously. The next Monroe County Commissioners meeting will be held on April 4th. The Monroe County Community School Corporation Board met on March 28th. During public comment, Riva Doliana asked the board to focus on safety at their schools in light of the most recent school shooting.
Although I live in Brown County, I'm from Bloomington. I'm a proud 1962 Panther. And so I'll get the funny part over. And I have a grandson who teaches at Jackson Creek. I have little great grandchildren that go to Rogers Elementary. I think this is a wonderful school system here. You know, this is about school safety, and we all know what happened yesterday. We hear about these horrible things all the time, and we could discuss all kinds of things. My main thing right now is it was in December. I went to my little great grandson Wynn's kindergarten school, and they made these little gingerbread houses. And so when it was over, and everybody was friendly and wonderful, I thought, wonder why I'm not going out the front door. But I went down the hallway and past the kindergarten and everything, and I go out this side door. I thought, well, wonder that what this sign says. It must say you can't come back in. No, it was about stop. You know, if you have COVID symptoms or something like that. I went back in to see if I could get back in, and I could. That upset me. I should have said something before. I mean, I can use the excuse that I'm going to have a hip replacement. No, I don't have an excuse. So I called yesterday. Wonderful people helped me, including Karen. And so I thought, well, I'm going to come here and speak up. And like I said, we can talk about all kind of things, but I really think that we have to, I mean, you know, people say, oh, well, wait a minute, money for a school resource officer at each school or metal detectors. We don't have money for that. I don't know. But something's got to be done. And to me, you know, we know this keeps happening because there are people that have mental illness and other problems. We don't know it all. But anyway, I want to address this because I think things have to change. Thank you very much.
Next, Bloomington North High School student Sam Clark addressed the board about LGBTQIA plus treatment in the schools.
I appreciate you letting me speak up here today. I am Sam Clark. I'm a non-binary sophomore from Bloomington High School North. And I am here to talk about a recent situation that occurred at North where a student put a litter box in a teacher's classroom and made posters saying that animal identifying students could use it. It's my understanding that this was a premeditated and teacher-approved student experiment to see how false information spreads on social media, although I haven't seen the description or methodology or results of it, and I really would like to. So for those who don't know, and this is from the Human Rights Campaign website, at least 20 extremist candidates and elected officials have claimed that schools are making litter boxes available for students who identify as cats. And this is a bizarre lie. It's meant to call into question school policies related to transgender non-binary youth. Not only did this situation continue to spread misinformation about the existence of litter boxes in schools at a time when LGBTQ+ students are being attacked in the state government, but as a direct result, transgender students at my school were harassed, meowed at, barked at, and more. The transgender population has high rates of suicidal thoughts and self-harm. Events like this can directly result in triggering these things. The school and MCCSC are extremely lucky that, as far as we know, nobody acted on any of these thoughts or feelings of self-harm. It was deeply disturbing to see this situation occurring at my school in any form. And it was disturbing to see the spread of this false information backed by a teacher without any thought of what the aftermath could possibly be. But it happened, and the aftermath is what we need to be concerned about now. It should be a basic expectation that teachers are at school to participate in the education and safety of their students. To have a teacher actively participate in this experiment and say that they did not know what the consequences would be shows an incomplete lack of understanding and training.
Later, the board voted on a resolution to recommit to serve LGBTQIA plus students to ensure they have an inclusive, safe, and welcoming environment. Vice President of the board, April Hennessy, spoke in support of the resolution.
It's been an incredibly disheartening and sort of heartbreaking week on so many fronts to see laws being passed, you know, here in our own state, but then nationally as well, that would discriminate against kids and people for just sort of their very existence. And so, you know, I'm really glad that we're doing this. And I heard comments earlier asking, you know, where do we draw our lines and how far do we go? I mean, I can only speak for myself. And, you know, we do have restrictions as board members. We are sort of authority to make decisions only go so far. But as someone who's affected by this personally as part of the LGBTQ plus community, I just want our students and our staff to feel supported in their sort of day-to-day. And so I hope that this is the first step to doing that. I know that we still have a lot of work to do to get there, but we'll do what we can.
The resolution passed unanimously. The next MCCSC board meeting will be held on April 25th. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
For hurting families in Monroe County.
A contribution to children who are vulnerable and in need of an advocate.
A staff that goes above and beyond to support and advocate for children in need of services.
The web of remarkable people who are dealing with difficult situations.
So many young people that are in need of help and trying to find a stable family, a stable place to live. Without the CASAs to make that happen, many of them would be unable to find a good home.
I love being that voice for the child who can't speak for themselves in court.
It takes me out of my comfort zone, and it also helps others.
CASA means supporting our community.
Being a CASA is making sure that your village is healthy and whole, and that the children in your village will someday be able to help the village as well.
A child who doesn't have a voice, maybe in their family situation or a school situation, now has a voice that can advocate for them.
I really enjoy working with children that are going through difficult times and letting them know that I care about their future.
We are privileged with our charge of representing the best interest of children. And so therefore we can advocate for exactly what they need without restriction, focusing on their best interest.
I want to repair the world one child at a time.
Welcome back to CATSweek. At the Ellisville Town Council meeting on March 27th, Town Manager Mike Farmer gave a flood report.
Well, we're cutting some trees down, so it looks like we're doing something. And I met with our engineer on site today. There's going to be some modest modifications to the plan. Nothing that anybody would really notice, but he was here today, and Bluestone's cutting our trees down. We have to have them cut down by the before 4/1, so for the bats, it's a DNR rules. So anyway, that's about it.
Council member Dan Swafford said he saw sandbags in front of the town hall and asked if it had flooded during the rainstorm on March 23rd. Farmer said that it had not. Street Commissioner Kip Hetty said that he put the sandbags in front of town hall as a precautionary measure. Hetty added that there was ankle-deep water on Vine Street.
Yeah, I went out and kind of monitored it till about 12:30 a.m. And the only thing we had was just probably ankle deep water on Vine Street. And that was due to probably because of the drain itself was probably below creek level by that time and was holding it back. But other than that, no, hardly anything.
Hetty attributed their preparation to the work of Monroe County Director, Emergency Management Jamie Niebel. The next Ellisville Town Council meeting will be held on April 10th. On March 27th at the Bloomington Utility Service Board meeting, Director of Utilities Vic Kelson asked the board to approve a contract with Breakaway Performance Group for on-call management training. Kelson explained that the services would be used on an as-needed basis, with the total cost set to not exceed $20,000 per year.
It is management training, but it's not management training the way you think of management training. It's really more of a managerial job coach. We have a lot of people in our organization that are in relatively new roles, handling lots of complicated situations, and HR had recommended in one particular instance that we hire a job coach for one of our employees. And after thinking about it, we thought, well, actually, it would be good to have a job coach available in an on-call arrangement. So we don't know how much of this we'll use, but it gives us the additional capability when one of our managers comes up against a really complicated situation, a complicated leadership situation. It gives them some confidential person that they can talk to with the challenges that they're facing to try and work it through. So that's what that actually is.
Board member Jim Sherman asked for clarification on whether or not the training was for interpersonal management or for technical skills training. Kelson said it was for interpersonal training. Kelson also shared that the on-call services would be held over Zoom. The board unanimously approved the contract. The next Bloomington Utilities Service Board meeting will be held on April 10th. And that is all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.